Thank you so much, Doc Foster and June. And I just want to apologize for that. I was in Santee Reservation yesterday and the day before doing some teaching, and I think I had my laptop set up differently, and it it was not cooperating. So I want to just say good morning, good afternoon, wherever this broadcast may find you. Just really happy to be here and be in the presence of you all. It's great to see some familiar names and faces. Are we seeing the full screen? Are you guys seeing the full screen here? Oh my goodness, it's coming together. I think the song that I missed must have done some magic, Doc Foster, because my laptop has responded, at least for now. Want to welcome you all officially to this session 2, our ongoing 3-part webinar, Cultivating Connections in These Changing Times, Walking Together in Kindness, Courage, Endurance, and Love. And this is session 2, and as you know, Dr. Dan Foster, Elder June Blue, and we're trying to get Jason Butler on. Doc Foster, he's also having some technical issues, so he may join us. So let's watch for him to join. I know Jim Weichel, part of our panel, is here, and we may also see Kiave Bone and Dr. Michael Yellowbird joining as well. So happy to have Teresa and Doc Foster and Elder June Blue, Jim, all here with us this afternoon. Just a couple of slides I need to kind of move through, and then I'm going to turn the floor back over. This event is brought to you by the National American Indian Alaska Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center. We're located at the University of Iowa at the College of Public Health. I'm broadcasting to you today from University of Iowa here in Iowa City. We are made up of 10 regional centers around the country, and also a National Hispanic and Latinx Center, as well as a HTC Network Coordinating Office at the University of Missouri. Again, as most of you know, this project is supported and funded by SAMHSA, and the content of the presentation today is developed by the presenters, and the opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect the views or policies of SAMHSA, HHS, or the American Indian Alaska Native HTC. Following today's event, we will reach out to you. This email may include links to slides or recordings of today's presentation. There'll also be information about receiving CEUs. We intend to offer 2 CEUs for today's broadcast, and those are NADAC approved CEUs, so you could put those towards any licensure or certification that you're carrying and accruing CEUs for. And lastly, there'll be a link to a short survey, and we would encourage you to consider filling this out. It's important to us to hear back from you. It's not mandatory. You can skip any questions you want on this survey, but if you could take a few moments to fill this out, it really would help us and also help us continue to provide events such as this in the future. So if you have any questions about that survey, please reach out to myself, Dr. Foster, or any one of us here at the center through our Consultants and Advisory Council. We're happy to answer any questions about that. So that's just some orders of business. I know we are gathered here virtually today, but we do want to and continue to want to take a few moments to pay respect to the land and the indigenous nations whose homelands were forcibly taken and inhabited. Please take a few moments to read through this land acknowledgement that was created by members of our team here at the center. Thank you. So without further ado, I will formally introduce our panel today. We have Teresa Subrill, Dr. Dan Foster, Jason Butler, Elder June Blue, Kiave Bone, Dr. Michael Yellowbird, Jim Weichel, and Jara Marin. We're hoping to have them join us today. So let's keep an eye open for a few of our missing panel members. And with that, I want to turn the floor back over to Dr. Foster to continue our dialogue today. So happy you're all here. Thank you so much for bearing with my technical difficulties. Thank you.
I didn't see if Jason had gotten on yet, or Kiawe, so I'd like to turn it over to Teresa, and then if Jason and Kiawe aren't on yet, I didn't hear a couple of words, and of relative.
Yeah, Dan, I think you froze on us there. We lost your audio, and I think you're frozen. So we're hoping to get you back as well. This must be the technical difficulty week or something. We'll see if we can get Dan.
Turn it over to Jim. I know Jim had some slides and some things he wanted to share today. Maybe he can jump in. We're going out of order since we're missing everybody else, but we have a lot.
Okay, Nyawastino, Swagwego, greetings everybody. I'm glad you're all here. I'm grateful for your well-being. Hano Nagoa East Nagetsanori. I just told you who I am in Cayuga. Otayoni Niwa Gashapti, Onat Tawaga ni Kakono ni Kanwike Niwa Quince. So I told you who I am in Cayuga. My name, Hanona Goha'is, means his mind is made up. I told you my clan, which is Wolf from my mother's side. We are matrilineal people. And my nation, which is the Seneca Cayuga Nation of Oklahoma, Kanawike. And in Cayuga, that means place of the beautiful waters. And it was where we were put after removal to Indian Territory at a time when it was beautiful waters. But then they built the Pensacola Dam and created Grand Lake of the Cherokee and flooded a good portion of our territory. So, but that's where we're at in Oklahoma. And currently I am in Salem, Oregon, on the territory of the Kalapua peoples, who are part of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde. I work for the Grand Ronde. I do not speak for the Grand Ronde. I have to make that clear. The only people I really speak for is myself. And I did want to note that, I introduced myself and I found out I've been learning our language, and I've been in a class with a fluent Cayuga speaker, and I learned to start learning to speak in Oklahoma. And I learned that I had been introducing myself incorrectly. And I used to say, Hano Nagoha is Giazo, and that means I am called. But the teacher told me, no, that you need to tell people who you are. And the Getsanot, it means that's who I am. So I would say Jim Giazo. That's what I'm called. Most people know me by my English name is Jim. And so I am called Jim, and that is my English name. A little bit about myself. First of all, technical difficulties. I think, and I unfortunately was going to actually do this from my car on my phone, because I share this room with a couple of other coworkers in case they need it. So if I have to hop off and run to my car, that's why. It has been a week of technical difficulties. Sunday, I was supposed to have taken an exam that has to do with my career and my certifications and my licensures, and it was going to be done virtually, and ran into some glitches and ended up cleaning my house instead. And so what I've learned what to do with these, this is our new world, this, Zoom technology. Our people have always been really quick to adapt to new technologies if it would serve our people. A lot of the new technology hasn't served us well, but I feel that this particular platform is something that that can be used well. The language class I'm doing is on Zoom. The teacher is actually at Cayuga Lake in New York. But we have people from Oklahoma and myself joining from all over. So technology is something that's good, but it also, as we have seen, can be problematic. And it's taught me the need to have to just go with the flow, so to speak, and improvise and adapt. And I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but I do not have any slides. I'm going to just, in a minute, turn it back over to Teresa. But this all started with some of us talking about, how we bring our traditional ways of being, our life ways, what we call Ongwehawe Naha, into the world that we live in today and into the work that we do. I just, I facilitate some groups here at work. I just finished one, and we were talking about the times have come where many of the non-native people are looking to the indigenous people as to heal, basically. And everybody's looking for healing in this world. And it was told, those stories were told that this time would come. And, we have a story that I've told before. It's a Haudenosaunee story about a boat and a canoe. And it's tied in with what we call our two-row wampum. And the two-row wampum is actually a treaty. It was one of the first treaties ever made between the Europeans and the indigenous peoples on Turtle Island. And it's a field of white wampum with two purple rows. And it was made between us and the Dutch in 1612, I believe, or 1613. And the two rows symbolize the Dutch and us. And the field of white symbolizes the universal river of life that we all are in. And the two rows at that time meant that here we are, them in their boat and us in our canoe, traveling side by side on separate but parallel paths. And that we should not meddle in each other's affairs. Of course, that didn't last too long. But there's a deeper meaning to that two-row as well. It teaches us not to mix our ways. But it also teaches, there's a story behind it that talks about, when the boat came, the ship, a lot of us got in the boat because we were enticed by what was in it. And we got in that boat, and a lot of us lost our identity as Ongwehawe, as the original people, And some of us tried to straddle in between the boat and the canoe and fell in the water of confusion. But a lot of us stayed in the canoe because we wanted to keep that Ongwehawe Naha, our life ways, our way of being. We wanted to keep that alive. And those are what we call our knowledge. Well, today we call them faith keepers. But at that time, our knowledge keepers, our ceremonial people. And They told of a time that's going to come, or was going to come, when the people in the boat are going to want to get in our canoe. And that we're supposed to take them in and welcome them and embrace them into the family of human beings. And show them our ways, as long as they come with a good heart and a good mind, but they do not get to steer the canoe. And so I think, I'm not a particularly religious person, or don't even consider myself spiritual, but going by that story and some other stories, and just from what I see, I think that time has come when the people from the boat are wanting to get in the canoe and are seeing the value. It's also been told that, indigenous ways are going to help heal the world. But here's the catch. As our people, we have to heal ourselves first before we can do any kind of healing of the world. And that's what we've been talking about on here for some time now. I know Teresa and I talk about it a lot. So I don't have any slides. I just want to throw out that what we want to do is bring these life ways, these healing ways into the work that we do. A lot of us are clinicians, caseworkers, what have you. I'm a peer supporter, and a lot of us work within our Native communities. But a lot of, like where I work, we serve the whole community, not just Native people. And we do share some of those ways in kind of a general way, as they say in some of those meetings I used to go to. We share in a general way with the people that come here. But what I'm more into now is not so much my clinical manager, who is not Native, the other day asked me, how do we decolonize something that's colonized? How do we do that? Well, number one is I'm moving away from that term decolonization. And we've been using the term indigenize, I think is more an appropriate term. How do we indigenize a space that is inherently colonial and make it into a place of healing, not just for the people that come to us, but for ourselves, as the people that are doing the work. And I know for myself that, as they say, I'm of no use to anybody if I'm not well myself. And I would just like to throw it out there. I know we're kind of winging it. Not just to our panel members, but to our participants, to feel free to ask questions or to share ways of healing that we do, not just with our clients or peers or the people that come to us, but with ourselves in our communities. And I see looks like Jason made it, only he's showing up as Steve. So anyway, I'm just going to be quiet now and turn it over back over to, I guess, Teresa, and just see where it goes from here. Sorry about not being prepared. I didn't know I was actually going to be one of the people doing some talking. So I talk too much as it is. So I'll be quiet for now. Yahweh.
Aneen.
Thank you, Jim.
Welcome, Jason. Welcome, Jason. I got you changed over to I got your right name on there. I know people get you and I confused all the time, so we got to make sure that we have different names going there. Great to see you, brother.
Aneen, so on the topic of today, keeping our fire lit, I know our prophecies spoke about in many of the elders throughout United States and Canada, different tribes, but Anishinaabe, the majority of them for me. Over the years, we had a lot of talks on our 7th generation prophecy. 'Cause the dreams I had, things that came to me, they'd open up and share, I guess. You'd have to ask them, but they're gone now, as to what compelled them to share. But we talked about the time of the past splitting, which we've been in for a while now. And I believe the Christians see that as a bit of that judgment time where people are choosing which direction they go. We talked about the 8th fire and that fire being lit. Well, what elements makes that fire? What makes us a people? What makes us who we are, the spirit people? If we change or alter that, which a lot of that has happened over the years due to good intent or atrocities or just how things were going that our people are dealing with today because of, in effect, we're not looking for absolute truth. And in that, we find a lot of confusion, we find a lot of restlessness, egos, other things are stirred and brought about. The prophecies spoke about us finding the seeds that were left behind. When you pick up a seed, you get to know that seed. You wonder about it. Who are you? What will you grow into? You get to know that being and what it can bring, when it's at its best. This takes a lifetime. This takes seasons of being with. So they call it a way of life. When we're mixing ways, again, we can't be on both sides of the fence. So again, you're going to have clients or individuals who are wondering why things are working the way they're working, or many of our people are very obsessed with the tricksters and the bads. And we have to step back and look at why. Why are they focused on that and not focused on who are the elders that brought what we have today? And what did it take for them to do that? And the states when you're feeling powerless, the states when you're feeling no will, your fire isn't burning. You don't have that spark in you. It isn't igniting in you. And when it does, is it out of spite, out of anger, out of fear, or is it out of that love? And again, that makes the difference in our 8th fire, how we move forward and what we move forward from and with. So they wonder why counseling isn't working. But are we getting to the root of things? Or are we giving them another crutch? And they say that the only thing that does work is real culture. The CDC recognizes that. Yahweh, I keep giving them credit for that. I have to forever. It's not throwing them under the bus, but they recognize that the only thing that's been effective for the indigenous communities has been cultural based. We go back and forth on this. It's going to be unique for each individual. It's going to change by the moment. But we have to be seeking the absolute truth for that fire to be lit, to have that peace about, to be able to justify how we're going to do our counseling. As June said, boots on the ground. It's really hard when our people are seeking in the wrong direction or being pulled into the wrong direction, and we believe that's what they want or what they need. As Doc Foster, I don't know if you felt it or not, when him and his family brings those songs in, you can feel spirit coming in. Even if you're another tribe, you can feel spirit coming in, it waking and stirring your spirit, your ancestors' spirits. And for me, being Anishinaabe and him singing Lakota songs, our history, to feel that spirit come, but in a good way, is huge. And that's part of our prophecies. That's the difference in the good medicines versus the mixing. And the mixing of ways, we have people here in Wisconsin that do the big drum now. We think that's culture. The big drum was never ours. That brings confusion, the choices they make later, the issues we have later, the nepotism, the egos, the being a member of the club cliques. And so our people don't feel like they're apart. They don't feel like they're seen. So again, they lose will. And the focus gets changed when they're coming for therapy, they're coming for group, why they're coming to treatment, why they relapse, why they're using. The focus gets changed to the current issue that they're upset about or what it's attached to, but it isn't the root issue, the real problem, the real solution, the real need. If you ask somebody who doesn't want to live anymore but doesn't want to die, if we could make your life, if you could wake up tomorrow and you can see an entirely different life for you, you were living in a house that looked like this in a place like that, what would that be? And you would be excited for life. And you start to see what the real root issues and the real barriers and the real needs are. What's really going on? What's really in the way? And what really needs to be attended to, as Doc Foster brought up in the very beginning. We're talking about community. We're talking about, it might be, you can call it activism, but it is that time, as Jim said, of the prophecies. And in order for the people to be a part of that world healing that they call it, which all that is what was originally taken, ultimate truth. They were taken from spirit. The Euro descents were taken from their truths, their connection to true spirit. And then that brought over to us. So in order for that to happen, we ourselves have to find that first and help each other find that. And within our communities, in order to bring that anywhere else. So in our jobs and as we're working, to start looking and trying to know that you're going to make mistakes and you're learning like a child. You're developing it. So you're going to learn from each other. And is it crafting? Are we going to go out today and do this? How do we check ourselves and be role models at the same time? Be tribal members in the way our ancestors would have. To picture the old ones coming back. Picture you're going through your community, you're going to the store, you're going to go pick something up for dinner, and all of a sudden there appears some of your ancestors from different times throughout time. They just show up. They're standing there dressed in the old clothes, and they're looking around, and they're seeing you at work, and they're seeing how you're holding back. What would they have been saying and doing and choosing? And derive that from that, because that is truth. And that is our way. Would they be proud? Would they be sick if you fed them the food we're eating? Would they have stomach problems? Why are we feeding that to ourselves and each other? And then we wonder why we're having a hard time focusing, having a hard time dealing with the stuff that we're dealing with. It's already hard enough. I'm going to pass this on to whoever's ready to speak in spirit, if it's Jason or Doc Foster. But we do need to keep our fire lit, but make sure what fire are we burning to check ourselves in it. Make which.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Teresa. I'm going to have Steve then go through our audience, and it's our participants, folks. It's fine if you share or don't share, but I encourage you to, if you're comfortable sharing. But I wanted to say a couple more words. When we talk about fire, often we think of the fire with the wood fire, the fire that we can see that gives heat. But I mentioned in the chat box about the chemical fire within us, metabolism. One of the things that I also notice with our current state of affairs is we're so distracted and so busy with sequential tasks. The Sundance is probably the most important ceremony among the Lakota Dakota and among many of the Northern Plains tribes and some of the Plains tribes as well. I bring that up though because the ceremony that you see, the 4 days of fasting and prayer with all of the singing and the movement and the supporters having feeds 3 times a day, but the dancers having nothing, fasting through the night. That's 4 days, but it's actually a 16-day fast. Then that 16-day fast, the other 12 days are not public. The other 12 days are with the person in prayer and creator and the earth and the flora and fauna around him or her. Now, that is something that's ongoing in our life. Where am I going with that? Is because if we don't take care of that inner GPS, that connection that we have with spirit, if we don't connect, if you look at a tree, you just see a part of the tree. What's underneath the soil is just as important as what's above. And there's all types of exchanges that are actually occurring underneath the soil as well as above the soil. And even when the leaves are gone for the deciduous trees, that activity is still going. My proposal to you is the unseen parts of us are just as important as the seen parts. In dominant society, there's a great emphasis on your appearance and your behavior. I would propose as spiritual beings on a physical journey that what's most important are your beliefs and your thoughts. And no one sees those except through your words and your behavior. So I encourage you to focus on your beliefs. Maybe live as one who loves life. Maybe live as one who loves your family. Maybe live as one who loves yourself. What does one believe when he or she chooses to love others? What does one believe when he or she chooses to love self, to love community, to love life, to love earth, water, to love fire? What does, and these are the kinds of thoughts that are maybe useful when you're taking that time to fast and pray, because our emphasis is on being and being in this incredible of relationships. Mataku ye oyasin. With that, Steve, I'm going to turn it to you and have you on our participants. Please feel free to share or not share, whatever you're most comfortable with, and then we will bring it back to our panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc Foster. I've been encouraging a few of you in the private message to feel free to unmute and share. I know we've got a lot of wisdom, experience, strength, and hope here amongst this group, and just wanted to open the floor for comments or thoughts, and then maybe also turn to one of our panelists, Mr. Jason Butler, to share as well. Yeah, what's working? That's a good question, Jim.
Well, I sure would like to share a thought or two, and maybe a reflection. So, Geshet, Buju. My name's Scott. I come from the collaborative Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa Chippewa Indians on the beautiful shores of Lake Michigan here outside of my office. I'm eternally grateful to be able to say those words. Being a man in recovery, an Indian man in recovery from alcohol and drugs many years, and feeling the pressure of what were my peers, and the insecurities of not fitting in, being adopted at 11 months old, and having had one foot in, one foot out, and chasing my identity and spirituality and my soul, as it were, for 29 years until I came home. And now I work here for the tribe, and I work in our behavioral health department here. It's such a gift to be able to do this. And what's working with me and my groups, or with my groups, not me, it's working here with the people I share, is what was kind of mentioned. So I've heard ego, I've heard lots of disdain and lots of negative, and I understand, I get it. But I think for me, what works best here is bringing back kindness. I recognize kindness. I was speaking with our traditional healer, medicine man, yesterday. I get to work with that individual and schedule all the appointments and be the conduit between our community and that traditional way and ways of language and song and healing and teachings. And it's I learn more than anybody walking through our doors. Of course, that's the gift of being in the position we're in. But he mentioned the, and Dr. Foster touched on the interconnectedness with everything. And the chat was mentioned about what's in my background is sacred hoop of feathers, a well variety insignia behind me, because I follow the red road and I embrace the well variety movement and the teachings. As a person in recovery, it's a good pathway for me. But I think what I liked about today in my reflection is it was brought out to me yesterday, our interconnectedness with what we see of the tree, more importantly of what we don't see of the tree and what that tree connects with. And I learn now, I say ani and buju to all the stones and the ground I walk on and the grass and the leaves that have fallen from those wonderful trees and the river that flows through my family property and the cat that I share a home with. It's that interconnectedness. Everything that is given to me is so kind to me. Everything that has a spirit has been so overwhelmingly kind to me, including a great many humans. And not all of them, but a great many of them. A majority of the humans I interact with in my entire life, if I look back, have been very kind. And some even loving, and some compassionate and caring. Very few haven't been. And those few, you can almost tell, there's trouble and pain in there. It isn't because they're awful, mean, terrible people. In my opinion, they're hurting and they've got a genuine imbalance, which is what we strive for, right? And so I'm moved by what I've heard from our shares and our the incredibly intelligent people that we've heard so far that are full of wisdom. I respect everyone so much. I could sit and listen to Winkle all day. That guy is inspiring to me, and I'm always happy when I see him. And I think for me, it just goes back to kindness. And that's what we talk about in our groups. We actually, after we do our introductions with the groups I lead here, I'm always asking, share one moment of kindness in your week, or since we had our last meeting or circle, share a moment of kindness with the group. And I don't mean an act of kindness from that individual, something that you recognize from someone else of kindness. And then we kind of take it from there. It turns the direction of pain and suffering and, oh, he said, she said, and I can't stop using, I can't stop drinking. And it just changes that whole model into thinking about just being kind like the Indian way. That's my share and thought. Once again, so much love and appreciation to everyone. And it's wonderful things happen on this beautiful little 24-inch monitor of mine. And moments like this are one of those wonderful things.
Miigwech, Scott, for sharing that. That is so important. Absolutely. I am so thankful you spoke up. Now I'm excited and I can't wait to hear from everybody else. What else you guys got?
I just got out of class, so I was doing a group, and I'd gotten everybody's message, and I was getting in here. I just had to get out of a group session.
Wado,
Good afternoon,
wado,
everyone.
wado.
Oh, go ahead, Steve. Well, yeah, I'm a little late too, you guys, so I apologize for the lateness. And I was kind of looking forward to facilitating this session here. But I had to transport, I had to bring a patient to Salt Lake this morning. And I planned it all so that I would be in Salt Lake and have a place to log on. And we ended up having some tire issues. So I ended up on the side of the I-15 changing the tire, and we were an hour late. And so as you can see, I'm sitting in the tire shop right now, getting a new tire for my GSA, but I'm able to log on. So kind of better late than never type thing. And, you know, sometimes life happens and you just kind of got to roll with it. So that's what I'm doing. And, you know, I think with some of the issues that were brought up just from the short bit that I heard, you know, I have a lot to kind of share about that. And really the work that I do is specifically related to how we are able to fuse our culture with our professional methods of treatment for different types of illnesses and diseases and things like that, you know. And you know, I wouldn't say that so much that these things don't work for our people. I think a lot of times it's that cultural aspect. And you know, when we look at our communities and our culture within our communities, there's several different levels of where our people are at on that spectrum. You know, you have people that completely believe in their ways and they practice their ways and they live those ways, and they could completely reject Western medicine and treatment. But on the other end of that, you have people, especially a lot of our younger generations, that haven't grown up with any teaching whatsoever, you know, and that's the troubling part. So I think you can look at Western methods of treatment and it's easy to say, well, those don't work. But I would argue more of it has to do with that level of traditional teachings and the level of how we're living within those for ourselves as to how those methods of treatment are going to work for us, you know. And that's a huge factor that sometimes we don't look at. Even when you're trying to integrate culture and tradition into your practice, if you have people that don't know those things, that's not going to work either. So I think it's really about, I think, stepping back sometimes and really taking a close assessment of your communities to gauge that level of cultural awareness within your own people. Because a lot of times it's non-existent. You know, I think I spent 3.5 years working for a treatment center and building a peer support program. The biggest thing that I found with the people that struggled the most, it wasn't that the counseling didn't work or the methods we were using was wrong. It's that they didn't have that traditional teaching to fall back on and lean on when times got tough. Whereas the people that did learn those things, when times got hard and they felt like relapsing, they know that they could turn to ceremony or prayer or medicines and things like that. You have people that don't have those things, and you wonder why they can't find the answers to the problems that are presented, because all of the issues that we face in our lives, whatever it may be, good or bad, the answer to all of those things are found within our identity and within our culture. But unfortunately, if we have individuals out there that don't have that, they're going to have a very hard time, regardless of what type of methods you try to introduce, even if they are culturally relevant. So, you know, I think a lot of times we overlook that and just assume that because a lot of us have grown up with these teachings and lived them, that everyone has, and that's just not the case. So, you know, I thought that's a very important point to make. Just that whole level of cultural awareness that we have. Because a lot of times that is the barrier between people that are successful in their recovery or treatment from either alcohol and substance use or behavioral health issues. It's that lack of culture within them. So, you know, trying to figure out how to introduce those into your practice is very important. But at the same time, if it doesn't exist, it's going to be just as hard. So I thought that was kind of an important point to make. With that being said, you know, it is an important thing to introduce. And like I mentioned, that's been a big part of, you know, what I do on a daily basis is trying to introduce language and culture into what we're doing, you know. And, you know, you can call it whatever you want, you know. decolonization. I think you said indigenize, or, you know, I think when I look at a lot of those things and the aspect of that, you know, and Teresa was talking about, you know, like what would our ancestors think, or what would they say about the things that we're doing or the things we're putting in our body. And, you know, I think sometimes it's less about, you know, what we call those things or label them, because when you really think about it, if we're making labels or saying this term is a little bit more correct, we're still using English, you know, so we're still using a language that is foreign to us. We're trying to like push away this idea that we're not going to accept this society, but yet we're trying to use their terms and their terminology and their language to do what we want, you know. So I think if you really want to get down to it, it's more about how you behave within who you are. It's about how you behave within the culture that you have, you know, whatever that may be, whatever tribe you are. We all have our own beliefs, but it comes down to on a daily basis whether or not you practice those things regularly. And you can look at it, look around you, look at yourself, look at the people you know, look at the community that you live within, the people that you serve as a provider. Are they living in that manner? So if you look at all of our teachings and what the things that we know we're supposed to be doing every day, are you doing that? And are our people doing that? And then you can gauge the ones that have a little bit harder of a time with life and the ones that don't, and see if those are the ones that maybe aren't practicing as much. And maybe if the ones that are having a little bit easier of a time overcoming obstacles and barriers. So, you know, I think a lot of times we get hung up on the terminology and we get hung up on trying to like develop all of these methods. And it's a little bit more simpler than that, you know. Scott mentioned kindness, you know, and we talk about things like that, like kindness and love, and that idea of, you know, mainstream society being individualistic, where we come from a place that is collective, practices collectivism, you know. So are we doing that, you know, and are we practicing those things? So I think a lot of times we get hung up on like this terminology or how we're going to do it, and we forget to look at like, are we actually doing it, you know? And are we helping our community members to do it as well? Not just telling them like, hey, this is the way we're going to do it, and this is how you're supposed to say it, and this is how you're supposed to behave. But like, hey, you know, develop discrepancy. You say you want to be this, but you're not doing this. How can we help you do that? How can we help each other to live a better life and be more kind and be more loving? And be more caring and be more helpful to each other, you know? And those are all like values and morals that come from within who we are. So I think a lot of times, you know, it comes down to that too, is just taking a good look at ourselves, and saying, you know, are we practicing these ways consistently, you know, and does that have an effect on who I am and where I want to be and who I want to be? And I think you'll find like the more you get into your traditional beliefs and practicing those, and less about talking about them, more about actually doing them, you're going to find that life gets a whole lot easier. And, you know, even when it is hard, you always have a place to go, you know, whether it's turning to prayer and to your creator, or turning to your elders, or turning to your relatives or your ceremonies or whatever it may be, there is always somewhere to go, you know? So, just a few thoughts there, you guys. So, you know, again, I apologize for logging in late. Like, I was really looking forward to this thing today, because this is exactly the type of work that I do on a daily basis. And, you know, I've kind of dedicated my life to fusing the two things. Like, you know, I spent a lot of time in academic settings, and, you know, I've spent a lot of time growing up in ceremonies. So, you know, I see both sides of that. And, you know, I think both are equally important. You know, sometimes we tend to look at one and say it's not, but, you know, we have to look at how do we find that balance, because, you know, where we are today, we're on the internet, you guys. You know, I'm using a cell phone. Some of you guys are using computers. We're speaking English. I'm sitting in a tire shop to get my vehicle fixed. So there is no going back to the way our ancestors lived. You know, it's just, that's not reality, and it's not realistic to think that way. But we can take the concepts that they had we can take the reasons why they did certain things and apply those to our lives today. It's not like but we have to figure out how to do that, and we have to figure out how to find that balance to be able to do it in a good way, and do it in a way that takes our people forward to survive and heal. There's a lot of healing to be done. So, just some important things that I find in the work that I do, and talking to wonderful people like yourselves, and, just trying to progress this thing forward. So, thank you for listening to me. And again, I apologize for my tardiness.
Kiave has joined us, or he's here. Kiave, you wanted to jump in.
Yes. So as Jason was talking, I'd been reminded of an idea of living within sequence and the balance of things. So I like to, I do the same kind of work too. And the best way for me to put it into words is that I go back to what my people did traditionally. And I try to explain how to live in the moment, and not just discount the electricity that's coming up. It's giving me light that you guys can see me with the appropriated clothes that I'm wearing today, and the speech that's coming out of my mouth. But the central idea of being who I am and rooted within my traditions and my system and my understanding of my environment. So I have to look at the sequence of the things that are around me, my environment itself, because I am an integral part of my environment. And if I do not respect my environment in a way that reciprocates continual growth with that environment, it will push me out. We've seen this and we're seeing it now. And the reason why I say this is because it's really easy to get the picture. So in fall time, the leaves, they fall. And we used to heap those leaves up, and we would, start fires or low brush fires with them. And we had a huge canopy. And this is the time we would collect nuts. All of that big, heavy black smoke would get collected on those nuts, and they would fall down, and we would already have ashes to start cooking things in. This is the process that would give us a little bit more understanding of how we are in environment. So we would collect those nuts, and some of those were black walnut, hulls that we could mash up in the river that would cause like a temporary paralysis of the fish and allow us to cook, fish. A pretty easy way getting it out of the river and not destroying or, damming up a river and causing the natural environment to change, but just having an influence to better ourselves within that moment. It wasn't an over harvest, because once that black walnut washes down the river quite some time, it becomes diluted within all of that water. It's just within that specific location at that time. And being able to know the things around us and participate with not just the plants, the animals, and our actions, and knowing that we are recipients of the sequence that's happening around us, gives us a cadence of understanding within our world and our practice with every intention that we have. It's not a simple, I go and I collect corn and I make, tamales or, corn dishes or bread. It is that understanding of having that knowledge and carrying it on of why those things are important to us. Not that they're available or that they're not available, but the reason why they are there and the reason why we collected in such a way, or how we participated within our environment with the things around us, because we are the caretakers of our land. We're the stewards of our placement. And if we forget the things that are happening around us, or we choose to not pay attention to the world around us, I feel like things happen to gain our attention so that we can recenter and we can be a part of our world in a progressive manner that suits us in the best of ways, that we can be taken care of by the things around us if we know the knowledge and how to participate and how to be a part of. And a part of that is treating each other as an ample resource, because each one of us are sacred and important. And the moment we forget that, we have lost a resource. And we cannot participate like we need to. I just had a thought come up in my mind. I appreciate you, Jason. Thank you for sharing that. And I just wanted to share what was on my mind.
I'd like to say Yahweh to both Yahweh and Jason, and speak a little bit to, if I could, just real quickly, to going back to what Scott was talking about, of being kind. And in our, what is mistakenly known as, or called a great law of peace, it's actually called a great binding peace that was brought to us by the peacemaker and Hiawatha and Jikasansi, when we used to war amongst each other. And this peace was brought to us, and one of the central components of that great peace is called the good mind. Gatni Gohio. And in that good mind, it's kind of like, what do they say in the 12-step fellowships? And Jason talked about it. Practice these principles in all of your affairs. And that's what really the good mind is about. You know, the components of the good mind are, you know, integrity, honesty, good and kind words, generosity, gratitude. Those are some of the components of the good mind. And the good mind is, for me, is just not something I think about or something I feel. I do talk about it, but I think, as has been said, there's a way to live it out. And you know, we have a elder up here in Oregon. His name is Eddie Littlecrow. We call him Uncle Eddie. And he's originally from the Turtle Mountain, the Chippewa, but he's lived up here for a long time. He's a real elder too. He's an old school AIM guy. He was at Wounded Knee in '73 and what have you. And he's been around the block a time or two. He's also one of the kindest, gentlest people I've ever known. But he's a warrior. As Dan said, you know, a warrior isn't somebody that makes war. A warrior is somebody who protects the peace. And that's what Eddie does. And he talks about, you know, these times we're in hard times right now for everybody, Native people, and the whole world. You know, we have a lot of things going on. People are anxious, they're frustrated, they're pissed off, they're scared, you know. And I listened to an interview with Uncle Eddie not long ago, and he was asked about these times, and he says, well, you know, our ancestors been through lots of times like these before. And what got us through was walking together in kindness and love. And so I think the key word is walking, as Jason said, you know, not just talking about it, but walking. You know, if I tell you I love you, but my actions say otherwise, I'm a liar. You know, if I tell you that I care about you and value you, but my actions say otherwise, I'm a liar. So what I try to do with varying degrees of success every day, because I screw up a lot. When I get up in the morning, and I'm kind of a person of ritual and habit and, you know, structure that way, I'll offer a little tobacco, and sometimes, you know, maybe burn some cedar And then I'll say our, what we call the Ganohanyo, the Thanksgiving speech. And that's about being thankful and grateful. And, you know, making that an attitude of gratitude, as they say. One of my old friends, Roy B, he lived up in Yakima. He's from the Yakima up there. He used to say, you can't be grateful and hateful at the same time. And you really can't. I dare you to try it. You can't. Anyway, so how do I practice that? And it's really easy, you know. Good morning. How are you? After you, can I get that door for you? Can I help you carry that? You look like you're having a hard day. Can I sit with you and listen to you? It's really pretty simple, as Jason said. So I just wanted to speak to that. And once again, you know, as we say, Ganokwa Kanoksko, which means I love you, my relatives. So Yahweh.
I'll share a little bit before I can't stay on too long. But my name is Doug Whittle from Cheyenne River. Living in today, you know, as making a vow, you know, to receive that. That chanupa, you know, to always tell the truth and to give your life up for that chanupa. You know, one of the things that, you know, for me, you know, I'm going through, lost my wife recently. And so going through that washigla, and it's not fun. It's very difficult. But as a brother was saying before about our ancestors going through this, one of the things that got them through is wocheke, that prayer. If I get up late, I kind of hurry up and get the kids, because I have to be the mom now too. And if I'm late and I forget to pray, and I can feel it, and it's difficult. And then you know, you take a look at one of the things that as Native people, you know, for me, growing up with that boarding school survivor on both my parents, I went for a little bit too. But growing up through that, the message that I got was I wasn't wanted. And so as I was going through life, you know, walking this way, being a counselor and running in EPs and those kind of things, I would go do those things like I was told, you know, or asked to. And because by doing those things, you know, I thought I was being wanted, you know, over there. When at home, you know, I was asked to stay home sometimes too, but I would continue to go and help the people. And so, you know, I learned to find out there's limitations and there's boundaries that needed to take place. And anyway, when you really take a look at that, when that feeling of unwantedness, when that hits, instead of really taking a look at that, I would run from it. I didn't want to look at it. But as I'm going through this grief, it's probably not a moment or a day I'll break down. But I'll take a look at it, and because that's where that truth lies, and really taking a look at the understanding of my parents, what they went through, and my Hassani, what she was going through. And so today I take a look at that, and the only one that can change that is me. And for me to be able to take a look at that, and it's not that I wasn't wanted, to understand what they went through in that boarding school, and how you walk with that today is our ancestors, they went through much hard thing, but when they came together, and what they say is Unshilikicha, Ukicha Umpo. And that is to love each other and help each other without judgment or anything like that. And today I'm in Lakota, but I'm down in Dakota country, even a language teacher here. And I've been here for 10 years. But when I first came, and sometimes it's still that way. It's, oh no, he's not from here. So there's that lateral violence that's amongst our people too. And so we not only are showing racism or discrimination, we do that to each other. And that shouldn't be that way. And what we should do is help each other, no matter, who we are, because we're a relative. And I just want to say that walking in today's world, one of the greatest things that we're missing is that that vow. So that's what kept me sober for 35 years, is making that vow. To tell the truth, to give up your life for Chinumpa, and even being in a relationship, to honor that vow, regardless. But today it's not that way, nobody tries to fight for it, go through the divorce, and I'm pretty sure there's probably other things that lead up to that, but, to have that compassion, for yourself. So for me, trying to take a look at those things and to be there, to be there for my children in this difficult time. And because after the funeral was over, everybody left. And so we were home, and I got one that's she's a Hyoka, and she don't go around a lot of people. And so I have to honor those, what she wants, instead of making her go to a counselor. But we smudge and we pray together, And we went through 2 birthdays so far since my wife went home. Real technical. It's very hard, but you know, and that day was my birthday on Monday. Went to the store. I ordered a cake, and somebody said cake's paid for. Some of the gestures that my wife would do for other people, and so felt that day that whatever you do, you know, it goes back. So I felt my wife that day. So thank you guys for listening and being there, support. Thank you for your prayers. Hope that future. Talk after.
Miigwech for sharing. Everything you said was so important. I had a grandmother's stone. It's quite a story that how she came to me. Very special. An elder sent me to this special place at the lake, the only place these what they call concretion spirit rocks they come. This was years ago. I was to keep her with me, and the way it came is another amazing story of our great spirit beings and of Creator. That grandmother stone was taken from me down in Lac de Flambeau. Somebody stole it out my vehicle. We talk about lateral violence and even our traditional medicine societies today. We see some of that in there as well. The kindness is so important. Like Doug said, we're all relatives, and we need to remember that. And then how are we to come together if we can't remember that? If we keep reacting and carrying forward what's been put upon us. I went down to the lake here, Lake Superior, and that's where that grandmother stone came from. She had many things to tell that grandmother stone, and a lot of elders sat with her, and every one of them said, you need to carry her with you forever and bring her to the people. Those that intervened and took her because they seen something, power in her. They don't know how to read her. That's their GBIC, that's their medicine for intervening. But the spirits, they know, no matter what lateral violence, what ugliness is going on, people have the right to free will to choose, but we have to continue to live by example. Are we going to be proud of ourselves when we look back at our time and how we stood, how we went through? We may justify it now by buying into whatever, but then later looking back, would we really be proud? So I went to the lake and I asked, I wish I could share some pictures. I went to the sky since the summer, the spring, and there were an eye would come. I took pictures and posted it online and shared it with some of you. An eye would come plain as day in the sky, big through the thunders, after the storm, time after time, letting me know they're here and they're watching. They're still, it doesn't matter if it's 2022, it doesn't matter if the world is going mad, they're still here and we can connect with them. So I went to the lake, and this spot, those concretions, those spirit rocks don't come. The little grandfather stone spoke, and they said, come sit right here, sit for a time. Then the water spoke. This was a few weeks ago. And the water spirit said, it's going to take time because for us to push this grandmother stone we're bringing you, because we know what happened and we see you. And they're going to try to do their part, but we have to walk our way, meet them halfway, where that spirit world and our world comes together. And so I sat there, and they said if we pushed harder, the water would come way up. So they had to come gentle. to bring her, it'll take time then. They said, sit for a little while. I sat for probably about an hour. And then they said, she's here now. And I watched. They showed me right where to look, and I was watching. She wasn't there. All of a sudden, the water pulled back that was under a foot of water the entire time. Pulled all the way back. And there another grandmother came. Not the same and not with the same message, but with another lesson and another message. The water pulled back so I could retrieve her, and then came back as soon as I stepped back and stayed under a foot of water. So I sat with her and I felt that love that Jason spoke of. That is the kind of spirits I know residential school and Christianity taught, and not the true Christianity. The true Christianity is of goods, taught of a spiteful God. It is of goods and of love we come from. That is what our warriors had. That Odamin, that Chi Odamin, that big heart. That's why our warriors didn't suffer PTSD. They moved with truth and with heart. And that's what we need to remember and move with. They're still there, and they come with that heart, and they're seeing. Can they intervene or stop the bads? No. Free will. But we live by example to change the things we can't accept anymore, to come together. The elders before us are walleye warriors and those who brought back ceremonies that were outlawed. They had coffee clutches. They didn't work on the clock. They truly listened and looked around and watched the behavior of the people. This we still have in us, and they were residential school survivors. They were running around when ceremonies were outlawed and still bringing ceremony back. So they have brought back so much opportunity. It is in that heart where we find our will to move forward. It's in that broken down person in the community that's hitchhiking, that has and knows who to talk to and remembers. And we go have coffee with them, go knock at their door, phone them up in the nighttime, past hours, and talk. And then figure out ways. What is the barriers? What is the solutions? But with that heart, moving forward with that heart is what is important. Our people as Anishinaabe, I hear I'm Red Cliff tribe, I'm Bad River tribe, I'm Lac du Flambeau tribe, I'm Red Lake Nation. But those aren't any of our people. We're Anishinaabe. We're a people, one people. We're not our reserves. We forget they took us off of most of the sacred sites, which is just off the reserves, to go home to it, to go back to it. It's 20-minute drives away from most of the reserves, half hour, hour and a half drive to go back to these places, to take the day and go there instead of the mall or drinking or to a party or whatever, to powwow. Instead, go to these sacred places. Why would we dance? Why we would be moved? What was a powwow really? To ask the people that, to bring that heart, that fire forward again and alive in them. What did we really dance for? What are we focused on? So many moving with wounded egos, so to speak. To sum it up, I suppose. But Miigwech, I'll stop talking now.
I know we're scheduled to go until the top of the hour, so we've got a little time. I want to keep the floor open. If you haven't had a chance to share, feel free to unmute and join us.
I'd like, maybe if some people could share about their solutions that they have found works in dealing with lateral violence, nepotism, corruption within their communities or departments, what they found that works to be able to advocate or help or affect change in a good way. What helped in a good way without making things worse, or people getting blackballed or ousted, things like that. I know that's the fear of so many in our communities. I've been in so many communities, and so many that would share with me would talk about that. They wouldn't even want to speak up against their tribal clinic. They were scared of the backlash because of things. And so the elderly were being mistreated. And that's just one example. There's so many, right? So what did work? And if not, if you have the courage to, you can even talk about it in third person, say it's somebody else, say it's another reserve, that say it you heard, even if it's your story, about your dilemmas or barriers that you're facing, and maybe together we can help you find some solutions, or people listening here can share, maybe they already found that solution, and we could start coming together.
I could share a little on that. So I had seen these kinds of things, in my community, and I was very afraid of being judged for sharing information that was privileged or not for everybody. And what I had done was I created a program, and I linked it with a matrix model for our people. And it was specified just for, Catuans. And I brought this to, my elders, the ones that I respected out of, all the older people that I knew, and just brought it to my community before we brought it to the board to see if there was anything that didn't needed to be spoke on, or that it was okay to share, or if I could change things. And it wasn't the answer that I thought that I was going to get, which was, that they had appreciated what I'd put together and to move forward with it. And it was a big, huge, award for me, winning time, but it also kind of felt like I wanted that pushback, but I didn't get it. I wanted to learn in that moment, and they said, some of this stuff I've not heard of before, and I had given references for it, but being understanding of the knowledge you do keep, and if you don't have it, seek it out, and be honest with it when you do bring it forward, so that no one has anything to pull over you, or to hide you with, or to push against you. It is only coming from what you've learned, and know where you got the information and what you have, and know how to use it. At least that was my approach.
I'll share something really quick, and it's kind of, a simple, easy way to do it. It's just, again, kind of going back to what I was speaking about earlier, is like our own behavior and how we do those things, and being aware of whether or not we're engaging in that. When I became aware of all this stuff, I had to look at myself, and I realized I was just as bad as everyone else in doing these things. And I had to work on that. I had to catch myself and slowly started to change that. But what I realized is when I got to a point where I was non-judgmental and not doing those things, it was very easy to see when other people were. And what I started doing was just getting up and leaving. Like, I wouldn't even say anything. if I was in a conversation and people start gossiping or talking bad about other people, I would just get up and leave. And people later would be like, hey, where'd you go? I'd be like, oh, you guys were talking about whatever. And I don't do that. So, I got other things to do. I got other things. My time is valuable. So I don't waste time on stuff like that anymore. And it's pretty blunt to the point, but they got it, And my work culture was like that for a short time. But, and sharing these things with my staff, we slowly got to a point where everyone was like that. And when people would come in, it got to a point where staff members would just say like, hey, that's not a nice thing to say, or, hey, that's not nice. We don't talk like that here, and it got to a point where everyone was like that. I mean, it kind of eliminated that from the office, and from like clients that come in that were like that, and just straight up, once you get to a point, you're able to say like, hey, you know what, that's not very nice. We don't talk like that. So just a quick thing.
Thank you, Jason. I'm curious, can you share about how much time it took to see that change happening?
To get all the way to where it was like at the end, where people were just telling people like, hey, that's not nice. We don't talk like that here. It was probably 2 years. And that was in a work setting. So like it was that slow. But because the biggest hurdle of all of that, I think with anything, and like you talk about like recovery or self-help or just trying to change behavior in general, is that whole aspect of self-awareness and admitting to yourself, like, I am this, I do this, I do say this, I do treat people like this, I am this, and once people are able to get to that point, it got a little faster. And then it was easier to like point that out to other people. But it took, about a year and a half, 2 years.
And I think that's important for people to hear that, because, you give up hope, you expect it to happen so quick. But when you think about how many generations it was going on for down there and the reach of the damages, a year and a half to 2 years is really overnight. So that's amazing.
Yeah, and that's small scale. So I'm talking about like a staff of 5 people, and then whoever comes in and out. And whoever's coming in and out of the building. But like I think large scale, you always have to point that out, especially to our communities, like because people expect programs or individuals that come in to try to change things to be able to do that immediately. And when it doesn't happen immediately, or even within a year or two, people are like, we got to get rid of these people, or this isn't working, or this is not the way. But you have to realize that like we talk about intergenerational trauma, which means these things are intergenerational. They've happened for generations. So you can't expect intergenerational things to like change overnight. So you like intergenerational trauma, intergenerational solutions and methods is really kind of how you want to look at that,
Yes, absolutely. And they call it the crabs in the bucket. And I don't think people realize, because the bads or the ugliness or the oppression seems like it slaps so hard that we feel like it's everyone, but it's really so many that's looking for that safe space and looking for that change, and they're ready and wanting it and willing it. It just has to be created. And I think the way I've heard you talk before as well with your solutions about it is so impressive to me. And I really am so thankful you spoke. This picture here I took last year in the winter, and again, how many elements coming through. Steve, can you put the other pictures on as well? I just sent a couple of them to share and to show. I don't know. Did you get the other 2 pictures, Steve? And that one there is from this summer, and that was in the sky here. I took that picture, and that was during a thunderstorm. And that was, again, answer from spirit. So they're still there. and they're there for all of us. You flip to the next picture. There's one more I sent. There's quite a few that I took, but I just sent 3 to show. And we all, like Yahweh was saying, we all are sacred. We all are special. We all have these great spirit beings, and they're still here. And that is, I think, why they made themselves like that, for the picture to show they're still here for all of us to go to them. If you can see that eye there, again, the thunderstorm, I took that picture here, that's facing west. um, and so they're here, and to go to them, they can't um, fix our problems, but as I think it was Jason that was sharing, without the culture, that is what's carried us through. So to help us find that, but even if you feel that the medicine societies around you are toxic, go to the Sky Nation, go to the water, go to the woods, go to wherever it is you go. Those great spirit beings are there for you, with or without those lodges. The culture is there for you, and it is within you. So that's what I'd like to share, Miigwech. And then I seen it was the message. If you could close us out, Jason.
What was that?
Somebody had asked, I think Doc Foster, if you could close us out with
Oh,
blessing.
yeah. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, so, I think, again, that important aspect that we talk about is, the cultural component that we have. And a big part of that is our prayer way of life, And, I had an uncle, he always taught me, that our life is a prayer. Sometimes, just like Teresa was talking about, like, you don't have to go to ceremonies or to our lodges. Our prayer ways are everywhere, and they're happening all the time. And even, the prayers that have been said from our ancestors are still here and alive with us today. They're here, but we have to take those and we have to use them and make them come to life. So he always told me, our life is a prayer, that every step we take here on Mother Earth is a prayer. And like I said, it took a long time for me to realize, like, really what that meant. But when you become aware again and you start to actually live your life in that manner, it doesn't matter that we look around and see that we're in a modern world or not, or what we're doing, because we know that we have within us the power to be whoever we're supposed to be and do whatever we're supposed to do, the way that we're supposed to do it. So, I want to mention that, and just say, when we pray together, it's even stronger. So, I ask every time I'm asked to pray, I ask that you guys pray along with me. I get asked to do these things from time to time, and I always ask, it's not just me, it's everybody. And when we do that together, we can help each other, we can help our people and our families. So, as I pray, I ask that you guys pray along with me. So, help me out. Wanam Tehoyak, we thank you for everything that we have on this Mother Earth, Creator, this way of life, and this beautiful day that you give us here today to come together and to learn and to share, the way that you intended it. Whoever is here today, we ask that you bless them, and hope that they take whatever it is they gathered here today and go and use that for good, Creator, for whatever type of work or whatever they do, Creator, to help their people. We ask that you help to guide them to do that. We ask that you help us here, again, to guide us and to help us to learn every day. We thank you for all that we have, Creator, our sky and the air that we breathe, and the holy water, Creator, that we drink, that nourishes our body and gives life to everything, Creator, our sun that helps along with that process, and our moon, and our Mother Earth, and all of our relatives, our animal and plant relatives, Creator, that give their lives so that we can live, Creator, here on Mother Earth. And we thank you for that understanding that we have of all of those things. It's unique to anybody in this world, and we're thankful for that. So we ask that you continue to bless us, Creator. We ask that you continue to bless all of those out there that are hurting, in mourning, and in sickness, whatever it may be, those that have lost their way, Creator, that you help them to find it, help them to put something within themselves, Creator, to help themselves to get well, and to help them to know that right now at this very moment they're thought of and prayed for and loved, Creator. So, I ask that you help us in that way, and continue to look after us, and know that we are thankful for all that we have to go at. So,
Yo.
thank you, and thank everyone for showing up. And again, I apologize for being late, but like I said, life happens, and when it does, it's meant to be that way. So we're taught that everything that happens for a reason, even the things we don't like. There's something to be learned from it. So but as I said, I was looking forward to this, so I found a way. And probably tire shop people are wondering what I'm doing over here and talking about, but that's the way it goes. So I appreciate all of you, and thanks for coming today.
Yahweh, Jason. And I'll say Oniguia Swaguego until the next time, everyone.
Ooh.
Take care, everyone. Dokja. We'll see you again. We will broadcast the third session, November 16th. I did put the registration link in the chat, but many of you may already be registered if you've registered for the first one. So we'll see you again. Thank you for your time and attention. And this was a very good session. Thank you.